Hey guys, you wanna just test the share mode? I'm just testing it. Good.
A very warm welcome to the sixth webinar of REXTRO 2025, the Silver Jubilee Tech Showcase of the Faculty of Engineering, University of Rahula. Today, we gather not just for another webinar, but for a journey into ideas that hold the power to transform how we think, create, and shape our nation's tomorrow. Our theme, The Future of Sri Lanka, invites us to explore how innovation, technology, and Industry 4.0 can guide us towards a smarter, more resilient, and sustainable future. This session is more than just a conversation. It is a celebration of vision, purpose, and progress. It reflects the spirit of REXTRO itself, a legacy built over 25 years of excellence, creativity, and engineering innovation that continues to inspire new generations. With that spirit of discovery and determination, let us begin this session, a step forward in imagining and engineering the future of Sri Lanka. I am Oshadi Kodavade, an undergraduate from the Faculty of Engineering, University of Ruhuna, and I'm truly delighted to have you with us today. Let's embark on this journey of ideas and imagination as we shape together the future of Sri Lanka. Every memorable event begins with the right spirit, words that unite hearts, spark curiosity, and set the tone for the journey ahead. As we gather to explore the future of Sri Lanka, we celebrate innovation, progress, and the shared vision of building a nation strengthened by creativity, technology, and purpose. To open this inspiring session with warmth and direction, it is my great privilege to invite Professor Chaminda Karnasena, Dean, Faculty of Engineering, University of Ruhuna, to deliver the welcome speech and officially commence today's webinar. Over to you, sir.
Good evening. I hope I'm audible to you all.
Yes, sir, you may proceed.
Thank you. On behalf of Faculty of Engineering, University of Ruhuna, I'm delighted to welcome our esteemed resource person, Professor Henrik, who has invested his valuable time to enlighten our student staff who are joining today particularly on his expertise field on industrial revolution, digital themes, and on economic matters. So in this regard, I would like to introduce Professor Henrik as an originator of the fourth industrial revolution and the digital themes of today. And for the last 2 decades, he has shaped the global agenda for nations, leading organizations, including the World Economic Forum, DIF, McKinsey, who is one of the leaders in organization reforms, performance excellence, lean transformation, and serving as a co-founder of Strategic Intelligence. And as academic staff member, a professor of strategic management and economics, he has dedicated the past decades to strategy research, future studies. His work has influenced more than 24 national economies and actually 23% of Fortune 500 high growth companies, earning him recognition for the Financial Times as a leading authority in strategy. So I hope it is being highlighted that engineers should have strategic thinking, should have a sense of economy, and have a futuristic vision. In this regard, I think today none other than Professor Henrik, we can't select any other expert in the world. So as a down south state-owned institution having celebrated 25 years excellence, an institution which has produced 4,000 graduates so far, and our current student population of 3,000 students, young engineers who will shape our future. I hope, Professor Henrik, you will enlighten their minds on what will happen, what is happening now, what will happen today, what will happen in future, and what engineers and professionals we can do, and your expert inputs. So over to you, Professor Henrik, over to the panel to continue, and I hope our audience will have a fruitful session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your warm welcome. Every transformation begins with a vision, a spark that challenges the ordinary and dares to redefine the future. Today, we are deeply honored to welcome a visionary whose ideas have reshaped how the world thinks about progress, innovation, and human potential. Our distinguished guest speaker, Professor Henrik von Scheel, is globally recognized as the originator of the fourth industrial revolution, ranked among the top 100 most influential thinkers of our time. His work has guided global leaders, governments, and industries towards new frontiers of growth and sustainability. Professor von Scheel's insights have shaped national strategies, influenced the World Economic Forum, and helped pioneer digital transformations that continue to empower economies across the globe. His vision connects technology with purpose, ensuring that progress serves not just prosperity, but people and planet alike. In a world standing at the crossroads of change, his perspective on the future of Sri Lanka invites us to reimagine how innovation and Industry 4.0 can unlock our nation's full potential. With great pride and deep respect, let us warmly welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Henrik von Scheel. Sir, we are truly honored to have you with us here today. And we now invite you to share your invaluable insights on shaping the future of Sri Lanka. Sir, the virtual stage is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I guess you can see the presentation by now. And I just want to start off that I'm really thankful that I have an opportunity to actually be here. I'm in this session because of my good friend Yannicka. He invited me to participate. I'm a professor in both strategy and a professor in economics. I'm not a professor in engineering. But engineering is something that is quite dear to my heart, and I want to start with that because at the core, I'm focusing on engineering principles, on business management principles, and on process principles. And I've been combining them the past years. So the reasons why I want to talk to you as we're celebrating the faculty's 25 years is that engineering at the core is where all innovation happens. Engineering is where products are being developed. Engineering is where ideas are being developed, physical products, software products, constructional products. So all of this that engineering resides in is the future of Sri Lanka. So I hope you take this with a big grain of salt because I want to take you on a journey today. I want you to take you on a journey on what is the big change that is coming towards Sri Lanka the next 10 decades. And then I want to dig deep in terms of what is the fourth industrial revolution? What does it mean for you, your work? Then I want to move into the area in terms of what are the trend at the radar for Sri Lanka the next 10 years. And I've asked my team at the Strategic Intelligence, we provide all the information for the World Economic Forum, all the programs for them. I've asked them to work on this. They've been working on this for the last 2 weeks. So I think you are seeing this exclusively. Not even the Prime Minister has seen this yet. So you will be the first one that has an ability to view it and review it, and you can position yourself where you are. So at the core, I want to start off, before we start off to going through the details, start on to congratulating you. Then when you're in engineering school, you have started the journey on learning and seeing the world in a new way. And engineering is at the core element where you are looking at the future, how it will be. So let me start with just a raise of hands in terms of the thumbs. Do you think that the future looks positive for you in Sri Lanka, better than your parents? Or do you think it, if you think that, put your thumbs up. I think that's a yes. I can see that. If you don't think so, put a thumbs down. But I think most of you have a thumbs up, right? So you know what's unique with that? I'm traveling all over the world, and most around the world, youth in Europe and US, they think their future will get worse than their parents. So you have a huge advantage from your mindset point of view and your education point of view. So let's get started. I have the presentation and I have it in slide mode. So the content is made by myself, Strategic Intelligence Group, and the World Economic Forum. So when you see what's happening today, you probably have the feeling that a lot of changes are coming. And if you see a lot of changes that are there today, it's because trends are colliding together. And when trends collide together, something rare that happens. Normally, trends are there for 10 to 15 years, and you have an ability to adapt to them. When they're changing, it drives fundamentally change. It's like a paradigm shift. So when you hit underwater, it changes everything around it, the economy, how you work, how business works, how competitive works, trade, right? It changes everything. And what's happening right now is you see an economic power shift towards the east. And Sri Lanka is on the east. You're actually in the centerpiece. So the Silk Road, the One Belt Road, is 75% of manufacturing. It's 80% of trade that is happening there, and it's the biggest amount of revenue that flows forth and back. This is the biggest work flow of all. So the interesting thing is that you are in the centerpiece of an economic power shift towards the east. The economic power shift is both in terms of trade, money, development, and growth. The Silk Road, One Belt Road, grows 5 times bigger than any other nations currently. Europe is in a recession. Europe will be in a recession in the next 5 to 10 years. So what you see right now is that we're in a global reset system. That's due to economic, self-inflicted element on energy, inflation, and securities. And when you see what's happening is that we have everything moves towards an monitoring reset system. So 2.5 years ago, there was a US president that was sleeping. And meanwhile, he was sleeping, MBS, the Saudi king, he decided to end the marriage on petrodollar. That was US dollars and gold was married together. So he ended that marriage. That means the US was uniquely positioned to have the rest of the world paying off their debt. So since then, the US has been spiraling in a downward cycle because they're unable to pay down their debt. And what's normally happening when an incoming president comes and there's a monitoring reset system, that only happened 2 times before when we had the gold standard or we changed the gold standard. And that means that before President Trump came in, the Federal Reserve came to Trump and wrote the Mar-a-Lago Accord. It's 8 pages. You can download it on the internet. And it says exactly what the US will do. The US will do 4 things. They will decrease the value of the US dollar by 25%. They will take back manufacturing. And then they will enforce tariffs. And if these 3 things are not working to save the economy, then it will go to war. So what you're experiencing now is you have on one side the East is expanding the industries. They are growing because the link between the rich and the poor is so big, so they have an ability to grow. And then you see an element on war. So you will have a period around 10 years of war. And war is not something bad here. War is something good because it resets the players in the game. It resets economic elements to it. And when you look at the Silk Road, Sri Lanka is at the centerpiece of the Silk Road, both from the east side, from the west side, from the south side, from the corridor side. You are the centerpiece of all of this. So this is then putting up the questions. How is Sri Lanka able to leverage that they're at the centerpiece of the Silk Road? So this is what we want to explore together. So let's go a little bit and look into when an industrial revolution happens, something unique happens. And for you engineers, you saw that in 2011, 5 trends collided together: internet, social media, big data, mobile phone, and cloud. This is your phone. Your phone in 2008 was not like this. Your phone at this time was different. That means you didn't have internet, you didn't have all of this. They all collided together. Today, you live in a world that is physical, digital, and virtual. And that's actually how you connect and interconnect the world together. So when we did the German strategy, we realized that we announced the digital agenda in Germany and the European Union adopted it. That's called Digital Agenda 2020. All European Union countries adopted it. A half year later, we're sitting and drinking, and we realized, holy macaroni. It's not 5 trends that are colliding together. It's 77 megatrends that are colliding together over a period until 2050. And that's called the fourth industrial revolution. So you see these trends are technology trends and science trends, regulatory trends, workforce trends, environmental trends, globalization trends, demographic trends, economic trends, and consumer trends. And these trends have not changed since 2009. People just have different awareness of it, but they're the same. So that means that when you as an engineer, you work both from an environmental point of view, from a work point of view, regulatory point of view, you can assess this and you use this as a periodic table. So the reasons why this is important for you, because you will normally have several disciplines that you work across. And suddenly you realize if all these technology sets are there, the industry 4.0 evolves in an evolution, and the evolution of a revolution happens in 8 phases. So anybody that comes to you that industry 5.0 is coming around the corner, they don't know what they talk about, or they have no clue what is happening right now. So when you see that you have the digital revolution, it's not finished, it's happening in waves. So it's compounding, it's not exponential, it's compounding. The difference between compounding and exponential, and you know that as engineers, exponential would be I'll take one step now, and my step number 32 would be at the moon. We're not even close to that. So we have a compounding effect on how things are coming. Then we have technology revolution. That's 3D printing. That's all these technology sets you have here. That's smart automation, augmented reality, cloud computing, advanced analytics, AI, Web 3.0, autonomous systems, blockchain, cybersecurity, 3D, 6G network. I say 6G because from an engineering point of view, they're fooling us. They've been selling us 3G and then 4G and then 5G. And none of this has really extended the capacity. They're just stretching what is there, adding more around it, but they have not really linked to it. What we need is 1 terabyte upload and 1 terabyte download. So this is, from the capacity point of view, very, very different. So, and then we're heading to some other technology sets that are fundamentally changing the environment. So when you look at here, revolution, that's the Paris 3. So I've been part of the European Union to do the scope 1 and scope 2 and scope 3. So in terms of that sustainability, it's about pollution. And the scope 1 is about polluting what you need to do for yourself in terms of how are you using your water, how are you using everything that you're taking in. And then everything is indirect. So the first one is water and energy. And then the second scope is about how do you produce, source your product, package your product, develop your product, ship your products, and all of this within a cycle. It's to bring down your pollution. And then the scope 3 is how do you inherit pollution from your tier 2, tier 1 partners, and how do you send it out? So that's called CBAM, is where you are sending product across the border. So if you're not deducting the carbon credit or the pollution in your country, you're bound to pay tax outside your countries. So the reasons why you don't hear that much about it, because all countries are preparing it, and it's happening actually in January. That means nobody's interested to tell you that much about it. All the legal stuff is there, but it will have a huge effect on it. So when you think about sustainability, it's not about saving the world. It's about coming down with pollution on where you are with the company. And in scope 3, a normal company, when you do the profit and loss and the balance sheet, they should save up around an increase of 5% of their EBITDA based on their partners in terms how they do that. So it's actually very important that you aggressively go from reporting scope 1, scope 2 to actually how you can actually deduct it, have a tax advantage. So that's something you have to put your time in, because it's all about money and saving money. The sustainability. It's not a Greta Thunberg Kumbhachata party. It's about how does a company pollute less, make money by polluting less and having more money to improve their processes to do less pollution. And engineering is actually needed there. The engineering skills, the rethinking on how they produce, how material is shaped, needs to be done there. Then you have the economic revolution. You saw these three waves that we are in now, and then we have the bio-revolution. And so when you look at this, and then you have the consumer revolution, the fusion revolution, and then you have the quantum revolution, then you see, wow, Henrik, where are we playing? Well, from an engineering point of view, quantum revolution, fusion, science revolutions, it's all about engineering, hardcore, full blown. Consumer revolution also, but from a different point of view. And then bio-revolution is hardcore engineering. So then you ask me, so where is it Sri Lanka would be able to play? Because most of the years, Sri Lanka has been just consuming products. They haven't been playing there. So if Sri Lanka needs to play, they have an opportunity to play in the bio-revolution, and they have an opportunity to play in the fusion revolution. But if they're not aggressively developing something to do now, they would just be one of the normal, regular consumers. I will go through these two for you a little bit later, but that's if that's okay for you. Good. So I want to highlight to you a little bit AI, because most of you have touched AI, but I need to give you a reality check, right? Because what you see in the market is not what it is. AI is the automation of intelligence. We've been doing AI for quite a while, and AI is not rocket science. AI is structuring of data, information flow, service flows, workflows. It's how you categorize, classify data. You do semantics and ontologies. We've been doing AI for quite a while. Machine learning, deep machine learning. And within these elements, there happened something in 2017 called attention is all you need. And that's a paper written by Google in terms of how you do neural networking in machine learning. Now, the interesting thing is we don't understand how it works, but we know it works. So we don't know what happens in the machine. What happens the input and the output. So here's the strange thing. AI is 8 disciplines, and we're all excited about language models. Language models reflects us how the language is there. So you have to be careful about it. So you as students, I'm warning you about 2 things. I'm warning you about there's no magic powder. You actually have to learn to do it. That's about data gathering, categorization of data. You need mathematical formulas. You need to learn K models, RAGs, fundamental setup hardware, software programming, mathematical formulas to categorize, classify data, supervised, unsupervised data. So it's hardcore data management, how you monetize your own data. What they're doing with the large language model now is that they're stealing your information and reselling them your information back. So I can say it as honestly as I can to you guys. Sri Lanka plays absolutely zero role in AI. No, none, nada. You don't have energy, you don't have hardware, you don't have anything of any kind of this. If you play in AI, you play in a very different. You play in symbolic AI, narrow AI. Generative AI and AGI does not exist yet. It's marketing. What really exists is robotic process optimization, AI agents that work with supervised, unsupervised data, right? And that's actually where we are today. So what they are telling you is they're fundraising funds and everything will change and everything will change. At the core, the more technology we adopt, the more humanity we need in it. And the humanity we need in terms of AI is engineers. Engineering perspective in terms of how we do first, before you do anything with AI, you do digital sensory and connectivity. That's sensory connectivity in terms of Bluetooth connection and devices. Then the second element you do is digital engineering, because you connect robots, machines, and devices together. And then the next thing is you do digital operations. This is a hardcore engineering discipline. So before you can do any of this, then you come to AI. So that's a loop going around. So you cannot do AI without doing digitalization. So this is quite important that you have that in mind. So the big AI comes as organisms are algorithms. And in the biorevolutions, there are 8 disciplines. I'm not going through them here because I don't have time for you, but it's a big play for you. The big play for you guys it's where our system becomes a biosystem, a biosoftware, and a bioinfrastructure. Our body will be consumed by customized medicine and will change the way that medicine is. That means the big opportunity for Sri Lanka is indigenous medicine. So why am I saying that? Traditional medicine that we have today has a placebo effect of 20 to 25%, which is, I can as well just take the water and feel that I'm getting more healthy. It's a very low one. Some medicines are very high, they're effective, but most medicine makes us more sick and more ill. The pharma industry is one of the most corrupt industries. So this is where we need to go back to the old roots. And Sri Lanka has some of these old roots. That means from an engineering perspective, you need to go back to AI, molecular data. You need to go back to nanotechnology, bioinformatics, and all of this. And much of it is capturing, categorizing, classifying plants, data, all of this, right? Let me just give you a simple example. There are around 50 different sentiment plants. We only sell 2 of them. Doesn't mean that the other one is not edible. They're not congestible in a way. So orange is a fruit that was pollinized after many generations. Strawberry is a fruit that was also pollinized very many generations. That means with AI engineering principles on AI molecular data, you can do that. So the area in terms of who will carry AI beyond language models is within the engineering discipline. And this is actually what you need to realize on how you do that and how you can move forward. So this is the hype cycle on AI, and I'm just showing you this. You normally have a hype cycle, you have a performance cycle, and an adoption cycle. And within these elements, you have an outcome that is either operating model, customer model, performance model. That's often in best practices. And then you have industry practice, and then you have leading practices. Within this, it's actually really important to see when you see here, we are actually in the hype. That means that they're selling us more, but you can actually buy it quite cheaper. So let me just reflect with you. What is it that you need to implement in AI that nobody tells you? So 5 years ago and 7 years ago, McKinsey and Deloitte were preaching to the world that robotic process optimization was God's gift to mankind. Well, today you don't hear them saying that anymore. Why? Because robotic process optimization is way from here all the way best practices. So before you had a project with McKinsey of 5 to 10 million, today you can buy a robotic process optimization software for 200 to 500 US dollars. So you test it, try it on your forecast, planning, budgeting, on your invoicing, on your recruitment, or on any elements where you have processes structuring, on machine interactions, reactions. So if you have robots, if you have machines, you can do that. So you don't need AI agents to do this. If you do AI agents, you go to vector databases, LangChain, or you go to RAGs, right? But at this level, everything you see here right now is mathematical formulas that are structured in a software that is free and open downloadable. That's the most important thing. Now, here's where I'm putting my finger up to warn you guys, right? You have to be careful. AI is the biggest infringement on intellectual capital. You have to be careful. It's also a colonization tool. I don't need to tell Sri Lanka about colonization. When I just say the words, you're probably like, oh, get a shrink, right? That means the very big ones consume your information and resell your information again. So you have to structure a way where you make sure that your employees, it's called shadow AI, are not just using it because they're lazy bums and export information. That means the faculty dean would immediately say, every material, every research we do, we don't share on open source or any of these tools. Why? We only want to have that information ourselves and structure it and monetize that data yourself. You need to be the custodian for the industry leaders, where you can build small categorized elements where you manage data, you categorize data, and so on. So the faculty needs to be very strong in how you build machines, robots, and so on. So why I'm saying this? You will probably say, yes, but Henrik, Sri Lanka cannot really be the leader in robots. Not true. So when you look at robots today, there are around 4 big robots providers. Everybody else you see is an OEM agreement. So robots has not really changed for the last 10 years, 15 years. So it's the same providers. What is the differentiation in a robot? A drone or a machine. Either you do advanced robots that can learn and walk and go on, but it's always the software that is the key element to it. So most of the robots components you can buy. So you can buy it and you can customize them in a service, right? You can customize them in the service to go into the defense industry for Sri Lanka to build drones. You can build drones for agriculture. You can build all of these, but they're not the drones that are unique. It's the software you built it, how they measure the crops, how they sense the crops, how you take the data, how you work with the data. That's actually AI in a simple, structured way, and not way out there. So you are the very basic level where you censor and categorize the data. So my recommendation to the faculty, you need to have your own infrastructure, manage your own data, and you need to teach your students how to do that. And if anybody shares that data outside, they will be in Hell's Kitchen with the dean. Why? Because this is the future data that they want to utilize and monetize. So there's models for this. So good. So now I'm introducing something new to you guys, how businesses work, because most of you are engineers, and within an engineering aspect, you see visual, physical, digital, and systems. And it works the following way. So everything which is physical in the system is people, capability. So it can be a building, it can be software, it can be services you deliver, transportation, right? Within these elements, they're affected by 2 sides. One is how you operate the business, and the operations of the business are often driven by an infrastructure, by services, by technologies, all of this. That's called SAP, that's called robots, that's called clipping machines, that's called manufacturing, that's called assembly line, all of these. They are systems that support it somehow. You often have a digital virtual representation of it. So how the system is performing, where the supply chain is moving, where the product is moving. So you have a digital aspect to it that links between the system and the physical aspects. That's often human to robots, or robots to human, or humans to machine, or machines to robots, and machines and vice versa. Goes the same way up and down. Then you have the north side of it, which is the business, where the decisions are taken to how to lower the cost, how to increase value for the customers, or how to deliver value in the services, how you can improve your business, right, in terms of revenue. So all of this engineering principles are 3 key pillars. One pillars are engineering. That's project management, life cycles. You look at categorization, classification, right? Then you have strategy principles, where you look on modeling, right? Modeling comes easy to an engineer because they know it already from engineering principles, right? Then you have IT, information data. This is the piece that you somehow know, but you need to get tightly connected to, right? And then you have the whole element on project management, because any project you run will be on project management. So this is always the same principles: blueprint, prototyping, running, and developing the business. So you see most of these cycles you know anyway. You are engineer, so it comes easy to you. From a strategic point of view, you always think the following way. You have a strategy, a strategic principle, tactical principle, and operational principles. And engineering must walk from top to bottom, from strategic to tactical to operational. So this is where the value add comes, because engineers are not a cost center. They go across from business to the bottom line. So this is actually where you're walking. So this is one of my key sentences you will hear from me again and again. The more technology driven you become, the more human you need to be. The human is always in the center of something you develop, because you develop it for a human or to a human, or it's consumed by a human, or the human is in the loop. So the current AI message, I'm not really a big fan of it. How? Because everything is changing, and it will replace the human, and everything will be good. You as engineer would say, what? That stinks rotten as hell, right? So a good future has to include three things. It must create a wealthier, a smarter, and a healthier society. They are the three things that any solution that goes global needs to include. So that's just my take on what you can take for this. So here's this trend radar I will go through with you, and I think we are nearly finished to come through. So the trend radar is where you look on saying, good, this is specially developed for Sri Lanka. So I will go take you through them a little bit. So it's about competitiveness, growth, and productivity. So competitiveness is a difficult thing to describe right now for Sri Lanka, because you have a 3 to 5% growth and you're happy with that in Sri Lanka. So productivity is what you need to drive up, and competitiveness is what you need to design, because right now you have absolutely no core differentiation. You have nothing that really makes you unique. So that is somewhere where the country needs to define something which makes them unique and is unique, right? Well, like I mentioned before, the indigenous healthcare, you need to invest in a couple of years to have a product that the world can consume. So it looks like this. You can always take a good picture of it, but I will take you through this step by step, right? So this is how the trend radar looks. This is the first time that you will see it. And that's exclusively for the university and for Yanaka to use. So when you look at it this way, thumbs up if you know what shadow AI is. Good. That means nobody knows what shadow AI is. Good. So since AI is the biggest infringement on intellectual capital, shadow AI is where you are enforcing a principle that any student should not export information or just do ChatGPT. So I've been sitting on the European Union AI Act 1, and I'm sitting on the European AI Act 2. And guess what I suggested to them? Teenagers below 16 should not have access to social media. And anybody in the universities below 21 should not have access to large language models. Why? Because large language models are making you dumber, more stupid. Because part of the principle of you learning as a human being is an ability to explore yourself and do mistakes. As I'm a professor, I will never scold a student if he does a mistake. I will scold him if he hasn't looked into it, right? Why? Because doing mistakes is a human ability to learn. That's part of prototyping. You're all engineers, so you know that prototyping is an important part, to have a hypothesis, go around it and fail, see what's working, what is not working, and then adapt it and see the next prototype, and then you align it together. So shadow AI is a very important element, that you do not share your information outside and anything of this. So here, since most of you need to write your PhD a little bit later, my recommendation is, and I see that with many students, they're going for the easy topics where they say, well, I want to do this because then they can gather many reports from other reports, so they do a summarize on this. I actually dislike that very much. In engineering, you should tackle some of the biggest problems that are unsolved and do a hypothesis and do a theoretical thinking around it. And it's okay that you do not find a solution. But in science and research, it's most important that you have a broad area of can researchers say he tried this way and he tried this way and he tried this way. And then maybe 4 or 5 years later, somebody will find a lot of value in saying, you know what, that's a really smart way. It failed because of this and this, but I can use the same principle for something else. So this hypothesis, this thinking, this ability to fail is, from an engineering perspective, actually as golden as anything else. So let me tell you a little bit secret. People hail me for the Industry 4.0 strategy and the digitalization strategy. What people don't know is that I've failed with many, many strategies before this that were not good strategies. But people never really discuss with me the strategies I failed at. But I know them. And I know them because they got me to get it right eventually. So I value more all the strategies I did wrong than the one I did right. So the reasons why I'm telling you this, you must face your inner demon to be willing to fail. Because by failing, you will explore that you know far more. So that's shadow AI. Then you have cybersecurity and data privacy. That's a big, big element that you will have on engineering principles, because we believe today that the core source of this resides within software. I'm not sure it is. So here I want to stop up and just brief you on something, right? Most of you know blockchain, so I'm just describing it very easy and right. Blockchain is 4 pillars. Blockchain is a smart contract. A smart contract is a way, it's like a software you can write. You have a provenance, you can put pictures in it, you can write codes, you can link it together, right? And then you have a ledger. A ledger is something, it's like a node you write, but you can never erase the node. All the transactions on the road are always there. That means a ledger is important because you can never change it. Then you have the principle of decentralization. That means once the smart contract and the ledger is there, it's decentralized. That means you need 2 keys to open it up. You have a public and a private key, right? And then you have cryptology in it. So the reasons why I'm saying this is because one of the keys for our crypto security and data privacy resides within blockchain and Web 3.0. And Web 3.0 is one thing that you as engineers have to get very close to, because Web 3.0 should have worked when Bitcoin came in the very beginning, but the crypto guys were not very excited because they were hungry for money, 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 money. Then it should have worked for AI, but AI also threw it down the wagon because they wanted to have information, information, information. So they also didn't care. So Web 3.0 is about the privacy of the data, the privacy of you. So in the consumer revolution that comes after the bio revolutions is where the consumer will be able to manage his attention based on the data that he gives. So Web 3.0 and blockchain becomes the key in this. So I believe the reasons why I'm using time to explain this, I think the solution will come from engineers like you guys. Because data will enter your body. Your body cells can carry data, up to 3 terabyte data it can carry. That means you will store data. Your system is already a data machine. That means you can link the link between how fast I'm linking my data to my phone in terms of how fast I can absorb it. So this will change. As this is changing, cybersecurity becomes a really important thing. And this is where you as engineer come in. Yet then you have industrial AI. For me, industrial AI is at the lowest level robotic process optimization. When you're manufacturers, when you're in an assembly line, when you're supply chain, you are working with robotic process optimization. Don't be fooled by large language models. There's no magic powder. You need to do it yourself. And by the way, don't ever use something you don't understand. So if you use data and you use robotic process optimization, you know exactly how it works. Why? Because engineering consists of the following principles. You decompose to assemble by order. So if you don't understand it, you cannot decompose it. If you don't understand it, you cannot regulate it. If you don't understand it, you cannot model it. So whatever you do, you have to follow the principles, always understand it. You have a model of understanding, then you have a way of working. So you have a framework, a method, and an approach. Within that, you go to level, you can decompose the car, have all the pieces, and then you can assemble it by order structure. This is how you actually re-innovate something new when you have decomposed it and understand how it works. Good. Then they have the future work. And here's the good news for the engineers. I believe you have the key for the future work. Because future work is three things: portfolio management, project management, and program management. It's the head, the shoulder, and the leg. If the head moves, the rest of it moves too. Portfolio management, project management, program management. You know, all three disciplines are core principles in engineering. So if you change an organization, you can change it from the bottom or from the top, but you change it via these tools. I can show you a little bit later if you're interested in that, right? So then you have the principle on digitalization 2.0. I announced that at CeBIT, I think 16 weeks ago. So the differentiation between digitalization 1.0 and 2.0, I can explain that, but I just want to ask you before, how many of you know business process management? Can you just put a thumbs up if you know that? Very good. So I have some guys that knows it. So a process is an activity, is linked to a role or to an actor, that is linked to a measurement, that is linked to an activity. Two roles and two activities are linked to a function. Two functions are linked to a service. Two functions and roles are linked to a process. A process and a service, a workflow and a service is linked to a value delivered and a value consumed, which is linked to a revenue flow and a cost flow up top. That's the basic principle of it, right? So here's the thing: processes, roles, activities, and measurements you find in systems. That's how organizations are designed today. The workflow is not designed. The workflow is what you as engineer design. So if there's three people here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm passing the water, he gives this person to the next person to the next person. It's a process. If the logical thing is that this person just hands to the fourth person the water, it's a workflow, because you assess that's the smarter thing to do and you do a workflow. That means you guys are the designers of the workflow. You guys are also the designer of digitalization 2.0. That means digitalization 2.0 is that you design based on the workflow. Number one, digital sensory connectivity. Number two, digital engineering, which robots, device, system is connected with what and in which manner, and then digital operations. So if you have a sandwich flipper that has a sensory to it, or you have a Lego stamp that has a temperature measurement to it, it's the same principle: digital sensory connectivity, digital engineering, and digital operations. So that's actually how it works. Does that make sense? So then you have customer centricity. Oh, that's a difficult one. You guys are not normal in business, but something has changed. Have you noticed Google has changed? Yeah, I see you have noticed Google have changed. So what has changed in Google? Google Ads is not working. Google Search is not working. So it's not working for you as it should before. So the same thing as on the customer side, then you have on the client side. The supply chain and resource, the supplier relationship is not working the same way too, because AI gouging has entered. And AI gouging is a robot that assesses the machine, the pricing between. That happens in hotels, but that happens also with suppliers. So from an engineering perspective, you need to be very careful to look on how the customer, the value chain, and the supply chain is connected into one. You need to have that view from one to end. And the one thing that you need to focus on there is trust, relationship management, how the process flow is, how the workflow is, and how you within that workflow from person to person can build trust. So then shifting trade routes, that's a big opportunity on in Sri Lanka. You need to find a way where you can design new trade routes, new partners beyond the trade routes that are there. Because as you saw in the economic revolution, we'll have 10 years of war. What will the war do to the supply chain? It will disrupt it. What is the key element when the supply chain is disrupted? Manufacturing. Where are engineers located? Manufacturing. So this is really, really important. And manufacturing is not only traditional manufacturers, it's also oil and gas as manufacturing, pharmaceutical manufacturing. Even though they earn more money, they're still in manufacturing. So then you have polyfunctional robots. I mentioned that before. Food tech. I believe food tech is a big, big thing for you guys. Aquaculture, all of this, right? I think you from the faculty need to go back and revive the old water system that your forefathers did. You need to learn how they did it because there was some really smart things in it, and revive it and store it and build a future on it. I think you need to build my perception on Sri Lanka is that I think that everybody as young people, they need to learn the soil. Everybody in Sri Lanka needs to learn how the earth works, how aquaculture works from the old farms, and how it works. Why? This is the backbone of your culture and your nation. And if you're not careful, that legacy is getting lost within 1 or 2 generations, and you will not find it in a large language models. You need to listen to your father, to your grandmothers. You need to listen to the people in the city. You need to understand how they did the spices, how they did the agriculture, how these things work, because you are the generations that keeps this knowledge to give it on to the next generation. So within engineering, there's an important principle that you must keep that information. So when you look at this, you are the link between the old and the next generation. You are the link that gets the information. You learn the new technology, and you know how old things and new things can mix speed together, and you can leverage it to the next element. This, I believe, for many in Sri Lanka, can be the future. You have more fruits, more spices, more variation in rices. You have more medicinal medicine. You have more than any. You are like the Garden Eden, and you need to learn what is in the Garden Eden, because the world needs a Garden Eden like Sri Lanka. And that's my very strong element that I'm proposing to you guys in terms of food tech. Then you have collaborative intelligence. Collaborative intelligence is where you talk about machines, system, robots, and humans, how they interconnect together. And this is where you need to be really good designers of the software on how that works together. And then we have sustainability, which is scope 1 and scope 2, and scope 3 is up in the competitive element. So now we come to the element where you need to grow. And this is where I need to tell you the honest truth. Most companies have more software, more hardware than they actually need. They pay more for what they are getting out of it. So most of them have an ability to operate, to grow, but they just don't know. And sometimes it needs an engineering perspective to look at and saying, I think we can get more out of this. How can we leverage this to get more out of it? Because the big companies often wants to sell you more of what you have, but you need to look and say, how can we make this work? Because we want to focus on something else. So then you have tariffs. Tariffs will be the biggest blow in Sri Lanka's face. And you need to focus on this. And you need to focus on it, how you find a solution for others or a solution for yourself. Then you have digital healthcare mentioned. You need to find a way on inventory financing, how to finance something that is stored in a value, do an insurance wrap around it so you can leverage the money and actually have money to reinvest to more. That's a principle that's called financial reengineering. Financial reengineering, when you're engineers, you need to be business reengineering. So in terms of how business modeling works, strategy works, operational works, you need to be an engineer in corporate setup in terms of how you can think, if this is the model, it works, how would it work with this, right? So for example, if you have an LTG, then you have a holding. Oh, why do you structure a holding? Well, a holding is not an operational organization. It only holds contracts. That means you need to have several companies that are operational companies, but the revenue flows up there. That is called corporate engineering. That's something you need to be very, very good at, right? And then you have hardcore engineering principles. Then you have financial engineering principles. That means something where you need to be very good at profit and loss. You need to understand there's something called in manufacturing integrated business plan. The integrated business plan is how an operations assesses risk, distribution of products, shipment of products in terms of supply chain management, and shipment out. So a company's success is corely developed on an integrated business plan. Within the integrated business plan, you do economic re-engineering or financial re-engineering. So how do you leverage the assets that are dormant, are not moving, to leverage them, to get them out, to get investors, and so on? There's tons of principles. This is where you as engineers, your limit is your innovation. So let's move to the next. I've been working in supply chain for over 20 years, and supply chain is up for a rethinking. So I've been setting up the World Economic Forum Supply Chain Committee, and I will assess that for the next 8 weeks. The reasons why I'm doing this is there needs to be a rethinking in supply chain management principles. We've been just putting patches on the work and not fixing the core. So fundamentally, our corporate structures and our supply chain is screwed up because of shareholder management. It becomes a cost center. Supply chain was always designed as a profit center. It was always designed as a competitive edge to it. So you guys need to be the rethinking models of how do you make supply chain competitive. So you need to think it and move it out of IT. So this is where I put my finger up as a warning. The more IT you are adding to something, the more you automate it and the more it becomes a cost center. The more you move this direction, you also need to move in the direction of innovation. If you only move in transformation down, you become a cost center. So you need to not only have a growth and cost savings, but you need to have a growth in terms of how it works. So then you need to have most companies you come into, and here I'm talking about companies, need a regulatory overhaul. The help that they need is from you because you know semantics and ontologies, decomposing, measurements, links, and so on. Regulations is nothing else than a directional goal. Who owns it? How do we measure it? And who needs to comply to it? These are principles that you as engineers are well founded in. But from a principle of companies, it becomes difficult to handle. So this is why you have the solution. From the government perspective, you also have the solution because Sri Lanka will have an inability to grow if the government doesn't fix the problem that you cannot hire and fire. Because the government needs to have the principle that you must hire and fire. Like anywhere else, you cannot have somebody just sitting on a chair. So bureaucracy is one of the big horses that you need to slaughter to make sure that you can be able to get a new horse and a faster horse in. So predictive intelligence actually goes to how you do your risk management. That's a big thing coming, but it's very much related to integrated planning. And then you see suddenly trust, Henrik, but trust in an emotion. Yes. Why? Because in relationship that we build to partners, to our customer centricity, to our products, it's trust in terms of how they consume it, how they consume the value, how we deliver it, and so on. So just think about if China decides to take over Taiwan and the port will not work anymore. Constructions, combustions of ship after ship of ship is out there. If you don't have a good relationship manager to the port manager, your ship is not coming in. It's the same with your suppliers. So most of the things that we do as business today, we're interacting with other people, and this is where the value add comes in. So we need to focus on this. So I'm nearly finished, guys, right? And that's the most important thing. Competitiveness is something you need to learn. There's 5 principles on competitiveness: hyper competitiveness, comparative competitiveness, dynamic competitiveness, comparative competitiveness, and competitive as advantage. You only hear competitive advantage, but the other 4 are as important, and that's probably the most that you will work with. So you need to understand the price value reality. You need to understand how to profit from sustainability, right? That's scope 3. I mentioned that a little bit more. You need to understand new equity models. And then you say, well, but Henrik, we are engineers. Yes, the saving horse on to develop products, develop new business engineering, develop new corporate structures, develop new financial structures. They are all the principles that you have learned in school. All of them. You just apply them in a different setting. So our financial market is literally utterly screwed up. 99% of our assets today are securities. It's paper based on papers, based on papers, based on papers, based on paper. It's literally toilet paper. That means the world is about to crack in the economic pillar. So if you can link securities with assets, you have saved 10 times the money. So this is where you can be the saving horse for many of you. I mentioned the consumer revolution in terms of the Web 3.0 and the bio revolution in terms of the indigenous healthcare, but also in terms of smart material. The saving horse in smart material is AI molecular data and re-engineering. So think about the following things. Why is it that plastic cannot decompose? Because they created a binding that no air can enter into. If air can enter into the binding, it can decompose. So you can use bacteria to open it up so a new binding can come with airs. So in nanotechnology, bioinformatics, and neurotechnology is where you're going through these principles on how to create new materials. There will be new materials out there that will be shaped, and they will come from you guys. So, and you need to be challenged by it. I think the last guy that got the Nobel Prize was for new material. So you have to, it comes within the engineering principle. It's you that will develop something like this. So closing off is my famous sentence that I'm using again and again for you guys. And I hope you hold this up in your torch. The true measurement of a good future is for a population where they become wealthier, healthier, and smarter. That means whatever you develop must go for everybody around them. So I believe in my closing that I'm saying for you guys, and here you can download my profile. I believe you chose the right career to become engineers. I believe you are one of the most blessed generations. You are in the sound of my voice. There's nobody previous generations to you that have lived like you. You live like kings. You have more knowledge. You have more health. You have a better future ahead of you. You have more equal rights. You have more than everything in your life. And that responsibility carries a heavy load. That means much is given and much is expected from you. But I also believe that you are that generation that can leverage this, that can create a better future where we can come into the fusion revolution, where we will have zero fusion on energy, where we have cleaner water, we have abundant water, where we have a future where humans can develop in a different path. You are in a discipline that are at the backbone of human engineering and innovation. So I'm really proud to have an ability to present to you. Normally, I'm not doing this, but I did it because Yannicka asked me to, and because I believe it's the biggest, most important element for you in Sri Lanka, that you're building the baseline for this. So let me open up for questions because I'm sure you have some, guys. And I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Professor Henrik von Scheel, for that truly visionary and thought-provoking keynote. You haven't just spoken about innovation and the future, you've illuminated how purpose, technology, and human potential can come together to shape a smarter and a more sustainable Sri Lanka. Your insights remind us that the fourth industrial revolution is not just about machines or data. It's about people, creativity, and the courage to rethink how we build our tomorrow. Now, we'd like to continue this inspiring conversation with our audience. This is your opportunity to engage directly with Professor von Scheel and explore the ideas that resonated with you the most. Please share your questions through the Zoom Q&A panel, and I will direct them to the speaker. So we are receiving one question, and it is, what message would you like to share with the youth of Sri Lanka, those who will be engineers and visionaries of our future?
Good. Let me share something with you guys.
Yes, sure.
Just sharing my screen again, so you can see it, right? And I think you can see it now, right? This slide.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Can you see it?
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Good. So this slide should not be something new for you, right? So you have engineering principles, which is testing, design principles, planning concepts, structural, quality assurance, integration, right? They're all principles about simplifications, planning, decomposing, classification, categorization, and composing or decomposing, right? Then you have the principle on enterprise modeling, which is strategy. You have rules, value management, service management, information management, measurements, performance management, process notations, and you have a business process. That's modeling. And then you have the whole principles on architecture, which is IT. So within that element, you have business architecture, solution architect, technology architect, process, service-oriented architects. All of this, they're conceptual, physical, logical design connection, right? This is where you see, wow, it's sculpturing, it's modeling, abstractions points, all of this. Then you see, wow, of course, this is why engineering is three worlds combined into one. If you go 20 years ago, the dean, when he went to school, it was all about engineering. It's all about the engineering side. Then IT came to it, and then architecture came to it, and suddenly you realize today what you guys learn is these three pillars in the world. So it's something very, very different. So this is the world that you are seeing today. This is the world that you can do today. So you have far more than what your dean and what the past generations had. You need to cover far more than that, right? So on your shoulder, you have far more opportunities. So I think that's a good thing. So as we are in the sharing mode, let me just share with you then the other piece, which is there we go. I guess you can see my screen is coming in a second. Just needed to find the slide for you guys. Here. Sharing it as we speak now. So I'm sharing this with you guys because I'm passionate about you and I'm passionate about the topic, right? So this is the biorevolution. And these are, no, that's the fusion revolution. Ah, damn it, that was one step earlier. That's the biorevolution here, right? That's biosoftware, biocomputing, biosystems, biomolecular data, biotechnology, or agriculture, smart material and interfaces. When you realize this, you say, wow, Henrik, this is a good thing we're going towards, because you can have within that discipline, you can go through all of these elements. Well, then you say, okay, Henrik, what's coming in the fusion revolution? Unlimited energy, abundance, water, interplanetary species, future of society. So how we shift work. You are the ones that will shift work. Human bio-robot interfaces and the future of transportation, right? So then you say, oh, Henrik, right? And then you go down here. 1 second. Here. That's the quantum revolution. So all these disciplines are active and the other ones are still not active, right? So I'm sharing that with you just so you have an element of understanding on where we are going. I gave you a short eye into something that is coming big, right? So that was the short answer to the question.
Thank you so much, sir, for your clear and concise answer. Moving on to our next question. How important is human capital in the fourth industrial revolution, and how can universities better prepare students for the future workforce?
What a good question. So look at the following way. So let me see. Need to have a good demonstration up for you guys. So I'm taking out my cigars, right? So first you have a human being, and then you have, from human beings, you have skills. A human being has an ability to adapt, to apply skills. That's what you did by going to university to do this, right? When you have skills, many skills and expertise are built here. So you have human, you build skills, many skills together, bring expertise. When you have expertise, you bring capabilities. Many capabilities create competencies. Oh gosh, probably not that's a good example. I'm going around with cigars, right? You poor guys must be totally hungry. So a human builds skills, expertise builds capabilities. 3, 4 capabilities bring competencies. Competence is what a company competes at, but competencies cannot be modeled. That's why companies go out of business. So you can model capabilities, but it's difficult to model capabilities. You model them at expertise level and skill level. So this is where the human comes in as a centerpiece, because we have an ability to adapt. Hope that answered your question with my cigars. And by the way, Janika, you should give me a whole package of cigar for doing this for you. Just saying.
Thank you so much, sir. And moving on to our next question. What key skills do you think young engineers should develop to thrive in the era of Industry 4.0 and beyond?
Okay. Do you want to have my honest answer?
Yes, sir, we would love to.
So, as an engineer, you have a skill that you have developed. But the most important skill that you need to develop is yourself. And one of the elements as a man or a female, if you want to develop yourself, find a person that you love and get married. Once you get married, a man becomes a true man and a woman becomes a true woman, because you are responsible for something. That means if you really want to be a really good engineer, your responsibility of having somebody to love or something to take care of will expand your own capabilities. So I know the young generations wants to wait until they're 105 to get married, but life is not lived without seeing yourself in another person. So if you want to be a good engineer, find a good woman. The dean probably wouldn't suggest this, but it's just an idea.
I have no objections.
Okay, but they're all excited, I can see, with their comments.
Thank you so much, sir. It was truly, we are honored to have an honest answer, actually. And moving on to our next question. Can small and medium enterprises benefit equally from Industry 4.0, or is it more suited to large-scale industries?
If they have a good engineer, actually everybody can benefit from it, right? Because most of this is, so what the large companies are hearing is the big thing, the big agenda. Large companies are not easy to move, right? So I think if the faculty has an ability to create ingenuity, right? So part of what you need to build is an ability to be entrepreneurs. Being an engineer is also being an entrepreneur, that you are testing and trying. That's actually called prototyping. You having an idea and you are agile enough in your idea. My recommendation for you when you're in a small, medium-sized business, right? A normal long business has a long-term strategy. It's a big ship, very difficult to move. The biggest strength you have in strategy is that a strategy constantly needs to adapt itself to the environment it lives in. That means you have an ability to be agile. And so if you can map trends and you can sense trends, you can faster adapt. That means you can adapt yourself really fast. So it's sometimes a benefit to be small. But it's the difficult thing with small businesses also, that you become in love with your own ideas. And sometimes you need to let your own ideas go, try something new, and come back to the old idea you left and find it to something else. So don't be so obsessed with an idea that you love it. It's a little bit like a mother that has a child, even though the child is ugly and everybody else thinks the child is ugly, we all look at it. The mother still loves her baby. So don't be an entrepreneur that looks at her baby and thinks it's beautiful. The rest of the people in the family look at it and saying, that's an ugly child, but it's family. We love it. And somehow the child grows out of being ugly. But when you love with the idea, don't stay with the idea. Just sometimes let it go, evolve a new idea, talk to your professors, talk to your friends, challenge yourself, model it a little bit, and use the principles you learn in school. Decompose, right? And assemble by order. Do a model of understanding. If you don't know these principles, you learned them at school. A model of understanding is how it relates to everything else and how you go about it. You have seen models of understanding before? Now I can just show you one. So, not sure if I can share my screen with this one. Okay, well, I'm sharing screen so you can see a model of understanding. Has everybody seen a model of understanding? So this is a model of understanding, for example, right? So you have the lectures, you have the conceptual thing, you have how you structure it, all of this, right? So let me show you another model of understanding, right? And can you all see this one? The can you see smart automation?
Yes, sir, we can see
Good.
it.
So this is nothing else than a model of understanding. So this is hardcore engineering work, right? It's a model of understanding on how processes are decomposed, where you find them, right? Classification, categorization. I assemble the known to the unknown to the unknown. That's how you find it out. It's hardcore engineering principles. So you're finding here how it relates to each other and what you can do with it and how it can work with it. Well, then you can say, well, Henrik, okay, I can do this model of understanding. Let me do another model of understanding. Well, then you, for example, do this one. This model of understanding is nothing else than semantics and ontology. For example, how does a company strategy appear from value expectation, value drivers, performance drivers, right? Go down to an owner, objective, a service role, owner, right? You go all the way down to the process, to event activities, right? To the physical components, to the data components, all of this. This is nothing else than what you guys already do. But you are going from the very top to the very bottom. And this is a semantic relationship where you say, for example, the service is a response to, or a subject to, or it oversees, or it performs by. So you have a relationship to each other. You have a model of understanding. Because why is a model of understanding? You understand what is my hand, how much can I move it here, how can I do this, how can I do that, right? So hope that answered the question, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And there's a few more questions. Sir, will automation technology affect the job opportunities of people, especially youth? How can we solve this social problem if that happens?
Let me answer the principle to you personally. All of you who are engineers, right? You can be loaded by automation, by AI, doing all of this, but you need to challenge yourself with something, right? You need to challenge your strategic thinking. As engineers, you are by design strategic thinkers. That means you need to design a problem. Every month you have a problem that you don't have an answer to, and you write it on the wall. I can tell you how I do in the morning. I stand up early in the morning at 5 o'clock. Now I'm not there, but at my home, I have a wall with a question. And I'm not looking at the internet. I'm not looking for all of this, but I'm looking at what are the components of the problem? Where does it originate from? What is it linked to? Right? Why am I doing it? I'm doing it to train my brain to work with something unconsciously and come up with something. I'm trying consistently all the time to solve problems. Some of the biggest problems that are around in the world, I have standing there and I try to solve them. So you should do the same thing because you train yourself, your unconsciousness to work with these. You have the principles, and it doesn't matter if the answer you have is not right. It matters that you train your brain to work on challenges and problems and come out with solutions. Your professor will never blame you for this, right? Train yourself to look at problems and find solutions. And this is something, if you're caught up in your daily life and your phone, you take away the opportunity for your brain unconsciously to work. So if you are not thinking, then your brain unconsciously works with the content that you have created. That means you cannot only have phone all the time. If you don't do something, you have phones. You need to let your brain have this emptiness to think, this emptiness for something new to emerge, because most of this has been given you of the teacher. If you go back what the teacher has been teaching you for 3 or 4 years, you probably remember only 10%. But most of this is stored unconsciously in you. So learn that you are empty, and then the principles that you have learned appear up to you. And once they're presented to you, you take them up again. You open the book, you read it up, you look it up, you test and try, right? For you, the world is like a magic you look at. And if you are not at the point of engineers now where you look at everything with awe, saying, wow, holy smokes, how does that work with the plant? How are they green? And you learn about this and you learn about this. So everything in the world as engineers is like you should be in awe about how this works and be willing to learn and learn more, because what you have been given is that you have been giving sight, hearing, and smelling, and your observation to look at this. And your hunger should be there all the time, because then somebody develops a device like this because there's engineers. So I recommend you to have a model where you constantly challenge yourself in terms of your strategic thinking, and you have a model where you constantly look at something with awe, totally with awe, where you say, wow, beautiful. How is that made? How does that work?
Professor Henrik, may I have a quick question follow-up? This is a very critical point you mentioned, because it's common for academics and me in the administration and the whole system where we are so-called super busy. So we don't have time to strategically think, maybe fully occupied with regular works. Maybe that is common to students, maybe also. As you mentioned, we should, I think, find some free time to let our minds again think about the real problems and decomposing, as you mentioned. Yes.
But here's the suggestion I have to you, right? Sri Lanka stands for that you are one with nature, and you learn your people very early on to meditate, to go to the temple and meditate, right? At the same time, you should teach them to say, well, when you're at the school, when do you find time to meditate about the problems that are presented to you? Because I can write a whole list of engineering problems that we have absolutely no clue to. Why don't you ponder on this? Because maybe Sri Lanka will be one of them finding the big solutions. Most of the physical and scientific solutions we have today, we don't have any answers. We have theories, but the theories are not related to the physical world, that how it works. It's just a theory. When you look at everything about the universe, 99% of this is mumbo jumbo theory, totally, utterly unproven, right? And because nobody knows, nobody challenges it. But in engineering, I mean, like, if this falls, we can measure it, we can see it, we can sense it, we can. And in engineering, we are a little bit more hardcore to say, how can we do this better, right? So challenge everything that is in front of you and review it, and maybe use meditation as one of the key sources, because other engineering schools are not doing this. And maybe you should say, you know what? We know this to work, so why are we not focusing on this?
Thank you. Thank you.
And by the way, Yannicka, he owns me a package of cigars for this.
And
Thank you so
one
much,
more thing,
Professor.
Henrik. Also, I see traditionally Sri Lankan universities, especially engineering students, maybe universities also, they are trying to win international, compete against international in Formula One and student Formula One. But as you mentioned, real problems are within us. Those are maybe fake targets we have been given traditionally, and we are after those. But what real targets, the real innovations, real breakthroughs are actually behind our garden, I guess,
So,
as you mentioned.
can I share something with you? What I learned from
Sure.
Buddhism? And that's engineering principles, because I think you can use this in your school very much so. So you'll probably see. So now we need to listen from a guy who's not a Buddhist what he learned from Buddhism. But I think it's an interesting way for you to see how I think the brain works and how we should actually actively source problems. So this is my model of understanding of the brain. 1 second. And it works a little bit like this, right? These are the principles, the 5 aggregates. You learn them in Buddhism. You learn them there, right? The body sensory, the intellect, the memory, the identity, the consciousness. You learn them there. And when you look at how the brain works, it actually works the same way, right? Engineering principles are nothing else. You have a trigger, and then you have a conceptual thing, a high-level prototyping, a detailed element to it. You have a logical thinking and a physical thinking. This is how the brain works. You have a consciousness, identity, intellect, and memory, right? So most of this, what you see, is not apparent to you, but it works. So what we use in learning is the intellect and memory. But the identity and the consciousness is where everything comes from. So just my 5 cents of throwing it out there. But this is actually what I'm working with, guys. This is how I'm trying to see more.
Inspiring. Thank you. Over to you, Oshadi.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Professor, for that clear explanation. Even we are impressed to see how you know all the facts about Buddhism. So unfortunately, as we are running out of time, we have to wind up our Q&A session. Thank you so much again, Professor Henrik von Scheel, for leading us through such an enlightening and visionary session. Your insights into innovation, technology, and the 4th industrial revolution have opened new ways of thinking about how Sri Lanka can shape a smarter and a more sustainable future. A heartfelt thank you to our audience as well. Your curiosity, questions, and engagement made this session truly meaningful. Today, we move forward with a renewed sense of purpose to innovate, inspire, and build the future of Sri Lanka. As we conclude today's journey of insight and inspiration, let us remember that the future begins with a shared vision to innovate with purpose, empower our people, and shape a Sri Lanka that thrives on creativity and resilience. Progress is not born from technology alone, but from collaboration, minds working together to turn ideas into impact and dreams into reality. To every participant who joined us today, thank you for your curiosity, energy, and engagement. You made this session a meaningful exchange of ideas and hope. May the inspiration from today's discussion guide you to think boldly, act responsibly, and lead with vision. Until we meet again, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep building the future of Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Professor Henrik. Really appreciate your valuable time spent us.
No worries. You know the passion I have for Sri Lanka.
Cheers. And we invite you to visit Sri Lanka, and if possible, faculty. You deserve a warmest welcome if it happens, I assured. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.